One really important thing when we're talking about SEO are algorithm updates. And you've probably heard about algorithm updates or you read about it somewhere, and they have names like panda, penguin, kind of strange names, hummingbird, etc. And what these really do signify are Google's quest to deliver highly relevant search results to its users. Google's mission is to organize the world's information, and present it to us, obviously. But, really what it wants to do is to provide us with relevancy. It wants to give people the most relevant search results at the top. So the more relevant you are, the more likely you are to wind up at the top of Google SERPs. So I wanted to go over some of the important updates because these are going to have a significant impact on your work as an SEO, regardless if you're doing this for your website, for your own website, or you're going to become a professional SEO, whatever the case might be. These have an enormous impact on search. Now, as you can see, this is by Moz. Google started the algorithm updates back in 2007. Essentially, they've always been improving their algorithm. But it's not until recently, back in 2011, where some major shifts have started to occur. And I wanted to highlight these because these will have an enormous impact on your work, and these are going to also help to highlight some of the fundamentals that are involved with optimizing anything on the web. So before all of this started, let's say prior to 2011, what you had was a web that was a little bit more chaotic because there was a lot of content being produced out there by people that didn't necessarily have the highest moral values. They just wanted to rank at the top of Google search results. So they started finding ways to kind of bend those and break those rules that Google had out there. Now, keep in mind, Google wants relevancy, and it wants to have a web that's high quality. It's steering the web into the direction of obviously higher and higher quality because that's where the web's usefulness comes into play. You're searching for something and hop onto the web and you can find the answer for it. You can find a tutorial, you can read comments and forums and blog posts or whatever the case might be. So in order to fight back against what it was deeming to be, these kind of low quality content sites that were coming out that were just trying to, rank at the top of Google search results, was to issue some of these major algorithm changes. Now, these algorithm changes were huge because they had such an enormous impact, not only on, let's say, the search results back then, but on the future of search. So the first one that I want to talk to you guys about is the Panda. Now, you've probably heard about the Panda. The Panda was, a major algorithm update, which is kind of the first big one that's talked about kind of in modern times, obviously. And that was where Google was cracking down on these thin content sites, content farms, for example, affiliate sites that had too many advertisements and too little content that were sending you across all over the place. They rolled out Panda first in February 2011, but there was a number of them that rolled out. So there was, as you can see here, there's Panda updates, number 4, number 5, and they continue with the Panda. So, I think Google will probably continue with Panda for a long time, and they're just aiming to affect the sites that are really trying hard to forcibly rank for, thin content stuff. So back in the day also, you might have heard of, content farms, which are these websites that were set up for the primary purpose of doing lots and lots of content that wasn't necessarily high quality content. It was spun content, content that was just put out there for the purpose of developing lots and lots of links, say hundreds of links to other different web pages, because back then Google wasn't really accounting for the quality of the content where the link was coming from. So it was just looking at factors that necessarily didn't relate to that. So this was their first foray really into kind of decimating the playing field, so to speak. This was kind of the start of their digital atomic bomb that helped to level things out and really punished a lot of websites that were focused on thin content stuff, and it promoted sites that had high quality content. So that's one really, really important one. The second important one is the Penguin. The Penguin started in 2012. Now, the Penguin had a different kind of impact. The Penguin was really targeting spam stuff. So here's the Penguin, April 2012, and as you can see, it says it was a web spam update. So in effect, it was targeting things like keyword stuffing, content cloaking, people that were doing sneaky redirects, showing one type of web page to web crawlers like Google, where they were showing another type of web page to human eyes, for example, in porn and other stuff that it didn't want Google seeing. And this was, Google's attack on these web spammers. You can also call them black hat SEO guys, who were really implementing techniques that weren't really above board. Again, this is all in their quest for relevancy. Google doesn't want irrelevant stuff at the top. It wants the high quality relevant stuff to show up at the top. So this kind of helps to solidify that approach. They rolled out numerous amounts of Penguin attacks, as some people have called them, and there were a lot of different algorithm updates. But what I really wanted to do is highlight the important ones. So the Panda and the Penguin, obviously, there was also an exact match domain. For example, an exact match domain, also known as EMD. An EMD relates to when you target the same keyword that you're targeting with the domain name. So if you register, say, like, iPhone8rumors.com, and you're just targeting that keyword iPhone8rumors, it's no longer super simple where you can just register an exact match domain and rank at the top. You used to be able to. You used to be able to do this quickly, within 30 days, rank at the top. Today, you can still rank with exact match domains, but have to be high quality EMDs. So if your EMD is low in quality, you can forget about ranking. But if you register an EMD and it has everything else that's high in quality, then an EMD can still be helpful. But really the focus just has to be on high quality content and forging value and building trust, in effect. The next major one that I wanted to talk about was the Hummingbird, and the Hummingbird was in August of 2013. Now, there were other ones again, like for example the SSL update, where, as you can see here on Moz.com, you have an SSL certificate. Basically, this is a secure site. It has this little green thing here on the Chrome browser, HTTPS, and indicating that this is a secure website with a secure certificate. Google is basically saying that every site, if it has everything else, for example, two websites that have everything else that are exactly the same, trust, value, etc., if one has an SSL certificate and the other one doesn't, then the SSL certificate is going to rank higher. This is also Google saying that they're trying to combat against hackers. If you have any experience with web stuff, then you know how persistent hackers can be. I'm going to give you some best use practices when it comes to putting measures in place for anti-hacking, how to monitor for hacking and stuff like that. Because Google really wants you to monitor for those kinds of things. And it also knows that if you have an SSL certificate installed on even if it's a WordPress website, it doesn't make a difference. You're going to be less susceptible to hacking. So that's an important distinction to make. So if you are in business or you're an SEO, always set up the website with an SSL certificate, because it's one very, very easy advantage to have, as opposed to not having an SSL certificate. So the Hummingbird, let's talk about the Hummingbird in August of 2013. This was huge. So if you liken, the Google search engine to an engine in a car, for example, the engine was virtually replaced with the Hummingbird. This is where their 200 plus algorithm ranking factors come into play. It's almost a completely new search. This really went to the contextual and semantic side of things. Google has always been a contextual search engine. It wanted you to find the best results quickly, but it's only with Hummingbird that they really switched to, for example, say LSI, which is latent semantic indexing. LSI is just a fancy way of saying a mathematical computation that compares words and phrases in sentences. So, if I type in one word or one phrase, one keyword, for example, search, I might get, search results that are, somewhat similar, but not exactly that. Like if I search for best weight loss plans or some other type of search, I'm going to come up with something that might say, top 20, diets for, fast weight loss or something like that. Google really was going against this exact match keyword, because back in the day, people will try to cram the exact keyword into their content in an effort to rank that content. And, this is Google stepping away from it, really stepping away from it. So we'll get into the impact of all this, with our work moving forward. But, have an understanding for Hummingbird and LSI, because LSI is going to be an important factor when we do our optimization work. The next one that I wanted to talk to you about, again, there's a lot, and you can go on to Moz.com and take a look at some of the updates, but there's tons of different updates. The next big one I want to talk about is the mobile get-in, so the mobile update, obviously aka mobile get-in, April of 2015. So this was really, really important, because what happened was searches on mobile have now surpassed searches on desktop for the first time, and this was not that long ago. And Google is really saying that they want your website to be mobile friendly. If it's not mobile friendly, then you're not going to come up higher on search results. So if somebody's searching on mobile, which a lot of people are doing nowadays, you might even be listening to this on your mobile device, then it's going to give preference to the mobile-friendly listings. So I'm going to talk a lot about usability stuff when it comes to mobile, and how to design using things like Bootstrap. Bootstrap is a CSS framework that lets you easily develop websites that are compatible for a bunch of different platforms, not just mobile, but tablets. And obviously we have wearables now, so we have that consideration to take into play. So, the web is moving away from desktop. It used to be all desktop, and it's no longer the case. So this is really, really important, and we'll discuss this. We'll discuss all of these and how they relate to the work that we're doing as we move forward.